day, and I've been obviously in New Jersey all day. This is what you get. But we are the best in terms of discussing what you have because Michael's been in the courtroom for the Sarah Boone trial. She's still in the cross examination, but we want to give you the scoop now. Michael.
Yeah, I guess they're gonna go a little bit long today, as they have. The judge was a little snitty because there was a lot of law and motion that took place before she actually took the stand. She didn't take the stand until the afternoon. They bumped it up to 1 o'clock. Normally, they would start the afternoon session at 2. So anyway, she got on at 1, did her thing, and then just began cross probably half an hour ago. So I'd be shocked if they get done with cross even by 6 o'clock, but we'll see.
Okay, so you have some high points. What are the high points today from watching? Everyone was waiting for this woman. They, shall we say, piqued people's interest.
Well, yeah, everybody wonders what the heck she's going to be like. They've seen her in the police interviews. They've seen her on the 2-minute, don't that's my name, don't wear it out video. And so she was pretty much as you would expect. Although, for those who saw it, I'm sure they were like, she's kind of icy, kind of cold. And I got a comment about how she may have changed during the course of her testimony. But let's talk about some of the specifics and things that I could see the jury reacting to. First of all, general comment, very attentive, literally every one of them, pad and pen in hand. Like they don't put them down. They're holding on to them the whole time. And there are a couple of them that are, I never really knew what the word copious meant, but these were copious notes. They were like taking transcription. So
how many jurors
something she's saying is resonating with some of these folks. There are 6 official, and then there are 8 alternates, which is bizarro to me because now that we know the whole abuse issue is coming in and has been coming in most of the afternoon, we'll get to why that all evolved as it did. It's still a lot of alts for a case that might go another week and a half. That's just a lot. That's basically, it's a replacement of the existing jury plus 2. So weird. It's just weird. So anyway, let's hit some of the high points. We weren't sure whether they were going to be able, the defense was going to be able to get into these details on allegedly past abuse issues with George Torres Jr. They had to really meet a threshold, suggested there was some sort of overt act that would have triggered her ability to claim self-defense based on this abuse in the past. That opened the floodgates for all of these past incidents. The judge was very hardcore about saying, look, unless you prove that overt act, it ain't coming in. And he was so hardcore about it, I had my doubts he was going to find what he needed. But I think Attorney Owens had a pretty good argument. Obviously, it worked. What he did was he focused on that period of time in between the 2 videos. Remember, there's the 2-minute video with most of the language back and forth. Sarah, I can't breathe. And then that little snippet where all we hear is George saying, Sarah. In between, there's an 11-minute gap. Well, we don't know what the heck happened in that 11 minutes. So what we heard happen, according to the defendant, as brought out by her attorney, Mr. James Owens, is that at one point, George had his whole hand out of the suitcase, his whole hand, and was yelling at her and saying, I'm going to end you. So that's a threat. If it happened, the hand being extended from the suitcase, suggesting he can unzip it and get out, that combined, that's a threat. So the judge took a moment, went back and looked at the law, which is always a good idea, and found that scintilla quotient, and it's, that how much that is, LKB. Right. There's a scintilla. It doesn't take much. No. So he found that as
I can't even see a
overt
scintilla.
Act, the hand out of the suitcase, the threat that he was going to end her.
According to her
and
testimony.
That basically opened up the floodgates. So
wow.
Yeah,
so
and again, there's nobody else around to refute it.
Believes her.
So the jury's going to have to decide to weigh that credibility.
Okay, I know you have another high point, but I have a question. Being not in the courtroom, was she the one in total control of who could take the video? So for the 11 minutes, she turned the video off. So they argue that it's because of his threats that she was scared.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure they went that direction. There's this whole thing about everybody was drunk. Okay, fine. And that can cut both ways. But you have to believe that she really was afraid, that she thought he could kill her if he got out of the suitcase. That's what it boils down to. If the jury thinks she made that up, she's doing attentive as they are. And I don't see people that attentive when they disregard what a witness has to say. You see them that attentive when they get it, and they're buying at least some of it. There's one woman who looks like, and this is total, kind of speculation on my part, that, she may be related somehow to the events that were being told to this jury by the defendant. Obviously, you just need one for the hung jury, and if you get a few more, you can convince. Maybe the lesser included is what you're ultimately saddled with. And I think most would agree, other than Sarah Boone, most would agree the lowest charge would be a winner. But remember, she turned down a plea deal, which was effectively the lowest charge. So to her, who knows what that would be.
So what are your high points? Because I see that we have
got a couple other notes here.
We have a little bit of glitching going on because you are outside the courthouse, which, it's the government.
Yeah, we got some lagging here. Yeah, and they aren't real happy about me doing it inside. Not that I didn't try. So we may have to come up with plan B for the next couple of days. Anyway, a number of different points here. Let me get through a couple of them. I know that the thread that really opened the floodgates led to item after item after item of abuse, photos included, right? There was, there were so many. There was the burn from the scalding. I believe it was broccoli and cheese. There was the worst one was the stabbing. They called it a stabbing, and it had to do with a fight that erupted where they were having steak one night, and a bizarre bit of testimony where she says that the deceased said, I'm not going to use all the flowery language, but he said he comes home, she's made him a nice steak and potatoes dinner, and they get in a fight. He says, I want to F you on the steak, F you on the potatoes. She had made this dinner and was serving it in bed, basically. They're going to put a movie on. So she says that led to this stabbing in her leg. Now, it was a pretty big cut. It was like 6 big staples or stitches. It looked like it was about that big, and it's on the lower. The jury was shown her leg as it is now, which is years later. I guess you could kind of see it, but the jury was on their feet. All of them. All of them stood up and, was like, leaning forward to see if they could see her. She was dangling her leg really just outside the witness box. So they were into it. I think as the number of events kind of continued and seemed to dwindle in severity, and not discounting the big picture here, I'm just reacting, as some in the gallery were, to some of the lesser injuries that didn't sound maybe worth mentioning. One person behind me said, "Oh, please," when it was an injury that you could hardly see on the photograph that was submitted. Here's one thing that I thought was very interesting. Early on in her testimony, you might have noticed she was kind of demure. Can I cuss? Whether she could say one of the curse words that she says George mentioned. By the end of her testimony, she's cursing like a sailor. I mean, full-throated, F-bombs, and everything else. So it makes you wonder, is that earlier part an act? And she felt like it was important to act like I can't say curse words? And then she got more comfortable as herself and was just letting it fly? I don't know. Just an observation. So those were the high points. Obviously, the cross-examination is key. I'd be shocked if they get it done today, but if they don't, they'll be back tomorrow. Start in the morning with that.
Did she seek medical treatment for the 6-inch alleged stab?
Have I lost you? Did I lose you?
Yeah,
no, you're back.
Okay. Did she seek medical treatment for the 6-inch stab wound at a hospital? Yeah. And are we gonna hear from that hospital or records custodian? Oh, I'm losing Michael.
That's a good question. I would not be surprised. There are some medical experts lined up, both mental and physical experts. They're lined up. So we'll see. We'll see if we hear anything about those specific incidents. We do know that there were 911 calls made on certain occasions, and we do know she went to the hospital on certain occasions. On the one regarding the stab wound, she actually was asked by George, according to her, to make up a story that he didn't want to get in trouble for effectively stabbing her. So they were having a sword fight with steak knives, and she got stabbed as a result of the sword fight with steak knives. That was one of the first that she recalls they actually had to go to the hospital because she thought she was going to bleed out. So.
Okay, so there's a lot coming.
Any of that come through? Did you hear any of that?
Yeah, we heard all that. There's a lot coming forward that's going to support that. What I do know, though, is we're going to have to get you a better Wi-Fi system for doing this because obviously the government is cheapened out on having it extend into their courtyard where they're letting you do our hit, as we like to call it. Michael.
Yep. Either that, or we're just going to. I'll just break in, or maybe I'll hang out in the hallway. I'll hang out in the hallway after hours. Okay,
All
let's
right.
wrap this up because it's bad.
Okay.
This is a bad signal. So
Okay. What do you expect today?
we'll be back in touch.
Tomorrow.
At 6 o'clock, with any luck, we'll have Ashley.
Yeah, we'll have
What's
Ashley
that?
Merchant. We're going to have
Tomorrow,
Ashley Merchant.
more of the
right.
cross if it hasn't completed, and then some medical experts are lined up.
It's like talking to sometimes my husband or a loved one. They
Okay,
just
let's get out of here.
All right, we'll see you at 6 o'clock. Better Wi-Fi. So Ashley Merchant won a big case before the Supreme Court of Georgia today on the YSL case. We'll see you 6 special guests. Michael will say, do the right thing. I'm supposed to then say, we are justice served. Subscribe, share, like, and notify. We'll see you at 6.